another way to get wide interval stretches, not necessarily by stretching your hands, but by choosing wider intervals. And I'm going to play the example first, so hopefully you'll like it enough to keep watching and learn this lick. Here's the lick. In E minor, every guitar player's favorite key, including mine. And it's E minor triads. And I never knew what a triad was before I went to school. I never even knew what an arpeggio was. I had to look it up in the dictionary, and it said the notes of a chord played separately. I thought maybe this is the notes of a chord played separately. Which it is kind of an arpeggio. But at that time, Yngwie Malmsteen had just debuted with an incredible album, doing all this, a lot of sweep picking kind of thing. So I tried to learn that and learned it enough to be able to do that one time. But that's kind of all I can do with sweep picking. And sweep picking tends to be really good for taking, in that case, A minor triads up and down really fast. And I'm scared to go down, so I only went up. So it's sort of. But as I began to listen to how people who aren't guitar players use arpeggios in music, if you listen to piano players and how they use arpeggios, violinists or saxophonists, they don't always go straight up and down. They'll split it up to make a more interesting musical phrase. So I actually got out some paper and a pencil and some what do you call it, like neck fingerboard diagram paper. And I wrote out the notes of an E minor triad, E, G, B. And I thought, I'm going to skip the middle note. I'm going to go directly from the E to the B, which is really easy to play. It's basically a rock and roll power chord. And then I'm going to start on the next higher triad note, which would be G. And I'm going to skip the one that would come next, which would be B, and go right to the E. And I did that all the way up, so you come up with these little chord shapes. And when I say you come up with those little chord shapes, there's more than one way to do them. That's sort of the art of it. It's figuring out, okay, I have these notes. How am I gonna make it work with guitar? So that was sort of the fun part. Is like, I could do that there, or you could do it here. There's so many different ways to get the same notes on guitar. But I'll show you what I came up with, and hopefully people out there in guitar land will be able to use it as well. So the first one is very easy, which is encouraging. Looks like a bar chord, should you already. The next one, I do skip a string, but I'm using the same picking for all of them. It's always down, up, down, up, down, up. The next one is B and G, again down, up. This one's almost a power chord. Then we're back to another power chord, so that's nice. So these aren't difficult to play. It's more brain work. It's more like, it really helps to write it down and sort of stare at the neck diagram paper for a while. Or just go between two of the shapes when you practice it. Like, then maybe add the next one. And maybe add the next one. Or just do a couple of the middle ones together. Get used to starting anywhere in the pattern. The next one is, I figured it out here. What is that, a G and an E? And the next one is a B and a G. A little bit of a stretch. You could do it here, I suppose. But I liked it because as soon as you do that, the next one is right there. And that's sort of a friendly little move there. Now, having done that and really had it be useful and sounding good, I started to search for other things besides triads that I might use. For example, triads are very classical sounding. And I love classical music, and it works great in that. But if you're playing a blues song, it's going to sound a little out of place or a little square. So I thought, what if I took what I consider to be some of the cooler notes in a blues scale? So I took every note in a blues scale except the fourth. The fourth, nothing against the fourth, but it's kind of the least interesting note. So I took the root, minor third, flat five, flat or regular fifth, and the seventh, and did that same technique of skipping the middle note and came up with this. And it's almost the classical way of phrasing a blues scale. And again, the intervals are stretched out, not from your fingers, but to your ear. And really, the ear is more important than anything. Who cares what your fingers are doing as long as it sounds cool? I'll give you one more quick example, which is the notes that I consider to be the coolest in Dorian, which would be the root, minor third, major sixth, and 7th. To me, those are the notes that really give Dorian its character. And you don't need the 4th so much. When you hear those, you know it's Dorian. So I came up with this shape. And that one's a little bit of a challenge sometimes, but I love it so much. And I came up with one up here that I'll show you. That's such a useful phrase. When I'm doing the G3 jam with Joe and John, you know, we're doing like the Purple Haze jam or something. I don't have to play it fast. I can just go. It's just the killingest big skipping phrase, and of course, you know, that's half of it is finding the notes that I like. The other half is finding a fingering that works. If the fingering doesn't work, you can't play it right, and it's not going to have the feel you want. So this to me, this is a really useful fingering, and I'll show it to you slowly. This power chord there. Those are both on the same string, but it requires a little bit of coordination with your fingers to get that to work. And the last one, and it bends so nicely up to there. That one I'm still working on. It's not as easy to play, but it has potential.